So, basically, if you haven't noticed, uh, people are both men and women are complaining about dating. Okay, you could even say that I'm probably took I'm to certain extent complaining or stating what's going on with dating in America, right? Um, you know, as the present time, right? Well, I'm one of millions of people that is stating that dating is different, okay, than it was years prior. Um, I have about roughly about 20 years, 20 plus years of experience as far as dating. I mean, I've been married before, but um, I've definitely been on quite a few dates in my lifetime. Now, I'm gonna get right into basically why a lot of men, whether they even know about MGTOW or not, are behaving their basically day to day lives are that of MGTOW, which is basically men going their own way. What's going on, Snowman? What's going on with you? Hope everything is good with you. So the reason why a lot of men, I'll just say myself personally. Before I even knew what MGTOW was, I was already doing things that like MGTOW men were actually doing. I even went monk, MGTOW, full MGTOW monk after I was about 27 or 28, because I had dealt with a woman. I got her pregnant. She had an abortion, and that shit rocked my soul. That's all I know. I went almost, I went almost 3 years. I was like celibate for like 3 years. I was religious at the time. This was like the Achilles heel of what I was dealing with. Like religiously at that time, I was practicing Islam, but that was one of the things that I just, wasn't really supposed to do, but I was doing anyway. Cause you're not necessarily supposed to be fornicating. That's like basically at that time, that was called Zina. So you weren't really supposed to do that. You're supposed to just find a wife and get married, and what I'm saying. I was religious at that time, but that was my thing. Like that was my drug that, I still dealt with. Like I still, was dealing with women, and that was the thing that I was doing. But um yeah, that really happened. I mean, I know some people, some guys, the thought of that is just ridiculous. It's almost like a curse, or it's like they could never do something like that. But um yeah, I man, my soul was rocked after that. Like, and I just, man, man, I was like really, really rocked, man. So I didn't, and this was 2007. I didn't know anything about no fucking internet, YouTube, nothing. Like it wasn't. This was before BGS. This was before even Thug Titian and all of the like Manosphere 1.0 people and all of that. So I didn't know anything about no fucking MGTOW. I had no thought, like I didn't read no books or nothing. I just naturally, that is what I did. I just literally just was like, you know what, man, it's a lot of things that I don't know. And then, I was rocked, and I had to like, just clear things out, and just, really take things serious. Cause yeah, I was rocked, man. But like again, I didn't know anything about no fucking MGTOW. This was nothing that I knew anything about. I ain't know nothing about it, but I was already, basically just kind of just exhibiting the behavior of what a MGTOW monk would behave. Um, the only thing that I didn't stop doing, I'm being a little bit more personal. I would say a lot more personal. But the thing is like I never did stop gooning at that time. Like that was one of the things that I tried to stop doing, and I really couldn't. So I don't even. It wasn't like it wasn't like a situation where I was just just chilling, and I was still gooning off. I was watching porn and everything. So um I had to admit that. But the thing is, yeah, I went almost 3 years, without having sex, and then I met somebody off Black Planet, and we hit it off, and after talking for about a year, and I just was, yeah, I was cool. But I mean, she was like religious herself, and she didn't agree with abortion, like myself. So but she was scared to have children and all of that. But she was cool. Like she was like, she wouldn't have done that to me. Like if I've gotten her pregnant, like we'd have had to figure things out or whatever. Like she wasn't gonna I was with someone that wasn't gonna have an abortion. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like, it's certain things like, if you got that's why it's important to have someone, to be with someone that has your same value system and all of that type of stuff, that has the same approach that you have as far as your ideologies and whatever you think, as far as like, your viewpoints and stuff like that. At least not like 100%, but you have some type of compatibility. You know what I'm saying? Um, but yeah, I mean, that was like I said, that was like 2007, 2008. Uh so long story short, when I did find out, about MGTOW and all of that, like, I never did like practice MGTOW. Like I never like, wrote read a book on MGTOW, and um basically practice MGTOW. I never did that, but um the thing is like, what the effect on this country and the laws and just how people are right now, as far as how they deal with the environment, because it's all about the environment. It's the environment. You can say like the environment, the economy, um those two things are important. The environment and the economy is how, because we're animals, we're humans, we're animals roaming this planet. We have to survive just like any other, you know human specimen or animal specimen. Like, when the environment is under attack, or it's some violence or no peace, people behave as such. Like they're not trying to have a bunch of sex and a bunch of children. You know what I'm saying? And you know depending on what type of environment you're in, you're gonna adapt to the environment. And we're complex beings that live in a world where there's an economy and there's capitalism, and we respond as such. A lot of like people don't really understand or break down or talk about how basically the economy is under very much strict control. Like there's a lot of controls with the economy. I'm not saying that you can't go out and get money, you can't go out and get rich. You can get rich. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying this is not woe is me or nothing like that. I know you can go out and make money, but here's the thing. Can everybody go out and make money, a whole bunch of money, and make um enough money to provide housing, food, water, clothing, shelter, transportation? No, not at all. You know, everything is cool, man. You know, I ain't really got no complaints. I just, every day I try. Every day is, I don't know if you there still there, Snowman, but every day is like Groundhog's Day. To me, it's like every day is like Groundhog's Day, and I deal with it. But what I try to do is see if I can make a little bit more money than I did the other day, and I try to see if I can compound some things. Just kind of build up some momentum. Um, it's very very slow and very sluggish. But I still try. Some days I do okay, some days I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, but every day is like Groundhog's Day for the most part. So and then it's like Groundhog's Day until it's not. But every day is very much similar. It's like Groundhog's Day. But um, the thing is like, yeah, like how the environment is how people react. How the economy is, again, because we're complex beings controlled by global capitalism and global capitalists. We have a system to where if you don't have enough money, you can't really do everything you really want to do. Like, for example, like most people are getting ready or already sleep or getting ready to go to work tomorrow. The reason why they getting ready to go to work tomorrow is because they don't have enough money to not do that. They don't have enough money to not do that. When people don't go to work because they like doing what they doing. I mean, maybe some people, they go to work because they got to. They go to work because they need to use that money from that job to pay their bills, to pay for their financial expenses. People don't go to work because they just because they go to work because they gotta go to work, and some people really gotta go to work, and some people really don't. Like, to be honest, like my situation at this present time, I technically don't really have to go to work. I mean, like, as far as I don't have to go to a job that if I did want to go to. I mean, my job is pretty decent. I mean, it's very very decent. I don't really want to talk too much about it, but it's just like it is chill as hell. It's so chill. Like, it's like one of the chillest. Like I mean, it really can't get no chill than what I have. Like, I probably have the easiest job I've ever had in my life. But the thing is that, let's just say let's just say I hit a I don't know. I made enough money to where I got like $500,000 or something, even a couple $100,000. I probably put my 2 weeks notice in, or let my manager know that I'm about to resign, because I don't need to fucking work that job anymore. I have enough money to go on my own at that point, and I know how to go on my own. Only reason I work is just like everybody else, because I need the money to pay for my expenses. It's like you know when somebody asks you, why do you want this job on the interview? I like eating every day. I like not sleeping outside. I mean, most people don't say that, but it's in a nutshell, that's really what it is. It's like, it's not rocket science. Like, you need this job because you need some fucking money. You know what I'm saying? Like, so This is the society we live in. Animals don't work. They go and hunt. That's their job. They hunt for food. That's their job every day. They live off the land and then they hunt. Whatever time, whenever they're hungry, they just see whatever they can get. If they can get something, cool. If they can't, they gotta go without. That's how they evolve. That's how they live. Like, with us, everything is about money. Like, um, before money, it was people bartering. But basically, people have skills. People have things that they know how to do to make money, and then they go out and make money. And most people work for others to make money. They work for the rich and the wealthy to pay their expenses. That's what most people do. But if you had the money to not have to go to work, you most likely wouldn't. The thing is that most people don't know how to manage money. So if they did get a bunch of money, they'll go broke. They'll go broke within a few years, or however long it takes them, they'll eventually go broke. So the thing is that, um yeah, that's those are the two major factors of why humans have the behavior that we have. The environment and the economy. So with that being said, okay, let's look at the environment and in the economy, um in the 90s, because I remember the 90s. It wasn't nobody talking about MGTOW in the fucking 90s, as far as I know. Nobody was fucking complaining about dating in the fucking 90s. You know why I know? Because I was dating in the fucking 90s. You know, I was as the jobs was plentiful, like I literally said they were, and other people can co-sign me and say the same thing. Yeah, jobs were pretty decent in the 90s. Everything was like, a lot better in the 90s, right? Well, the thing is, yeah, like, the environment was pretty decent and the economy was decent, and the reason why these young men especially, are defaulting to MGTOW. And I'm not saying that they actually are fucking card carrying MGTOWs that are exhibiting MGTOW principles and behaviors. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's like, basically, men are defaulting to MGTOW behaviors without even knowing what MGTOW is, without even fucking, you know understanding anything about what MGTOW is, because the environment is calling for it. Society is calling for it. Like, now I will say the impact on, let's just say, the manosphere does have a role in there. I'm not gonna say it isn't. I'm not gonna say MGTOW doesn't have a role to play into that, and then other, let's just say the red pill and all of the pills don't have anything to do with it. It does. People can be shaped and programmed and propagandized and all of that. Yeah. Um, is that a bad thing because men are online talking about relationships and how men are getting abused by the court system and all of that? No. I mean, it's just reality. But that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is, you got young men that they seen their father get raked through the coals. They seen their uncles, they seen their cousins, they seen their older brothers, and they're you know kind of scared to a certain extent to go back, to do the same things that they saw their father do, their uncles do, their cousins, their brothers. They don't want to take those risks. You think about it, like, what's the whole rundown? She takes my kids away from me. I have to be financially responsible, and I don't see my children, possibly. And I have to deal with um her harassing me, and this, that, and the third. Like, uh a lot of young men, they just don't really want to deal with a lot of modern American women like that, because it's a lot of negatives. It's a lot of negatives, and they're looking for alternatives, or they're looking for the best woman that they can find, or they're going overseas. you know um that's where the whole, it wouldn't be, it would the reason, okay, if I'm making all of this up, it wouldn't be no passport bros. If I'm making all of this shit up, if I'm just talking out the side of my jaws, and I'm not saying this is just a bunch of incel babble or some shit like that, like, you know, why is there a passport bros? The reason there is a passport bros is because, again, the environment and the economy. I mean, primarily the environment. The environment is very, very hostile. Okay, very, very hostile. Now, one of the reasons why it's hostile is you have classism in America. It's not necessarily racism. It is racism as well, but it's more classism than actual racism. I'll it definitely explain. So what happened after the 90s, basically the global elites started to close in the ranks. Like I used to talk to my ex-wife. I had this thing where I used to say, like, when things get real, real tight, they put the clank clanks on something. It's like it's like the sound of a jail cell closing. The clank clank, right? So the elites, they start putting the clank clanks on the economy. They start creating more red tape. They start, basically laying off people. You saw this in 2008. They started to put the clank clanks on society. And if you didn't have money, you were cooked. And a lot of people got cooked in 2008. And the thing is like, um, it's society to where the elites primarily just closed in and closed the ranks on, basically all of this free money flow. They started to be tighter with their purse and their wallet, and what resulted from that was, it was what you're seeing now: a lot of layoffs. And it's even worse now because, when they did things in 2008, it wasn't no AI hardly, or it was like relatively underground, or it was, it was the technology was not widespread like it is now. So they were without employees, they were without workers, or the ability to produce um output for their company. Well, with AI now, is a reality, that's not the case. They can have layoffs and still maintain some level of production with AI. So it's getting even worse. I mean, it's to the point where now, you have incidents like, for example, um, Luigi, with the ghost gun with the silencer, taking out an actual CEO of a major healthcare company. Just basically attacking the rich and wealthy, and their decision making. Allegedly, he did what he did because his aunt or grandma was denied medical um coverage for a particular illness or disease. And it was just like basically a lot of these companies, a lot of these heads of companies, a lot of these elites are very, very greedy, very, very greedy. And that's what's been going on. They have been closing in on the greed for the last 20 years. The last 20 years, they just got more greedier and more greedy, to the point where now, it's just, it's basically have has progressed into a different type of America than what I saw in the 1990s. It has progressed into this almost is kind of going into like, it's kind of almost going into America, because actually America's even worse in the early 1900s, late 1800s. I mean, America didn't give a fuck back then. Like if you really think that, like, they definitely don't really care now, but back in like the early 1900s and the late 1800s, they didn't give no shits about nobody. If you had money back then, I mean, you really had it, because it was a time where most people were poor in America. The average person was not middle class; they were poor. Like literally, people were so poor that they used to go to work, and then their children would go to work with them. I'm not making this shit up. Like, go look at old pictures and um you know articles about child work laws, child labor laws. They had to create a law for to ban child labor, because basically children were working with adults because they were poor. They needed money. Their children worked with them, and to basically pay for, to have, to be productive. People lived in slums, and it was just a low quality of living, and uh they didn't give a shit. And people, the elites didn't give a shit. They didn't give no. They didn't care that some little boy had to go clean out, a chimney. Chimney company had, 6-year-old boy going in and out of the chimney. Ain't give a shit. They slept good at night, knowing that they got a roofing company that has 6 and 7-year-old, 8-year-old kids on payroll, and they don't pay them that much because they're little kids, and a little kid is happy to get anything. You could probably pay a little kid, if a dumb little kid, you can give him a lollipop back in the day. He'd be happy. Give him a little toy car, or give him enough money to buy a toy car, and he's happy. So it's like, yeah, they ain't give no fucks back then. They ain't give a shit back then about, even children. Children was working in coal mines, because they could fit in the coal mines, digging out coal. It was just like, if you go look at the Congo mines in Africa, you see little boys, they out in the cobalt mines, they digging out cobalt, you know, for basically for the Chinese to make new iPhones, new computers, because cobalt is a major rare earth, that basically material that it is used to basically create electronic circuits, capacitors and stuff like that. That's what cobalt is used for. Your phone would not be able to work without cobalt. Your LCD TV, your car, your computer, it would not work without cobalt. But yeah, America at one time was just like how the Congo the people in Congo working in a cobalt mine. That was how United States was back in the early 1900s, late 1800s. They would have children working with adults, factories, coal mines, working working anywhere. Now, I mean, it is outlawed. But I say all of that to say that that is what it's looking like. That is what that's what comes to mind when I see the progression of these elites closing the ranks on basically it's you see the trajectory of wealth inequality, and you see the elites just going up and up and up and up and up and up, and the poor just going down and down and down, and it's like basically, you have a society that it doesn't favor the working man. Okay, when I say the working man, I'm talking about the working man and woman, because women are in the workforce now. It's been a progressive movement to put women in the workplace, and I believe I definitely you could talk to professors, you could talk to PhD professors that would know way more about this than I do, and they will tell you, okay, basically there's a link between feminism and the elites at that time, wanting to push feminism. And one of the reasons that I believe that the elites push feminism was to undermine the poor male in America. And when I say poor male, I'm not talking about just black men. I'm talking about men in general, mainly white men, uh, and black men, and Hispanics and others. They wanted women in the workplace to basically compete with those men. Cause who works, motherfucker? Who works? Rich people and wealthy people don't work in a sense of working a job. They are partners for at firms, or they have their own firms that they own. They have companies they invest. Like they don't work jobs like what you they don't go punch a fucking clock. So that doesn't affect them if women are in the workplace. They're the ones that want to hire women, right? Because who doesn't want a dick suck after you done had your morning coffee in your office? Okay? I mean, who doesn't want that, right? So yeah, they wanted to hire women, as well, Who wants a bunch of hard legs walking around, you know? I get it. You get a couple, spicy women to spice up the atmosphere, Um, get a few Model S type women to work in the office, right? And then you put you have something to look for after you done had your morning coffee. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, basically, coffee is an aphrodisiac. In case you didn't know, coffee, helps you get off. you know, I've been in the throes. When you get older, you get past 35, you start to slowly progress into old man sex. You start to, getting it up becomes a little bit of a challenge and all kinds of shit. So I literally, man, I mean, I remember, this was back when I'm doing better now because I um I went vegan for like vegetarian for like 6 months, close to 6 months. And I think that helped my body like reshape and reset itself. It's like it gave me like um it kind of like helped my body reset, but yeah, I remember years ago, man, I was in the throes of you know, putting some work in, doing some mattress work. And man, I needed a little pick me up. So I just, I was in a hotel room, so I, made a little coffee, and after about 15 minutes, you know, yeah, bone chicka bone bone. Like I was back on the block, right? So, um, yeah, I mean that, that's what I meant by the whole coffee thing. But the thing is, yeah, I mean the elites were not affected by women working, and they're still not affected by women working. The people that are affected by women working are men that have no means or little means, which is most men, right? Most men have to work a job. Like about probably, I would say 80%, 85, 90% of men have to work a job, right? They have, they kind of, they need to work. So if you got women in the workplace, they will be competing with other men for those jobs. Okay. So they wanted to undermine those men, make their lives a living hell, make their lives harder. So yes, feminism, great, great. How much money you need? You need 1 million? Okay, here you go. Here's 10 million. And that's what they wanted. They wanted to undermine um the working class men. The thing is that society has progressed since then, and now they're trying. I think they're trying to kind of undermine. They're trying to reverse this current administration, the Trump administration, with the Dodge, and all of this stuff, the DI rollbacks and all of that. This is to reverse kind of what the elites were doing in previous administrations or previous decades, as far as them um, basically propping up women against working class men. Okay. This is where all of the firing, and they definitely coming at black people. I'm not gonna, I'm definitely gonna call balls and strikes. I mean, they definitely coming after black men too, but they, basically it's like they're trying to hand the black community by letting go a lot of black women. I do it. I will state that I definitely see something going on, as far as there is no. It's not a coincidence that all of those black women lost their federal jobs. I mean, I'll just say it like that. It's not a coincidence. You know. So the thing is that this environment and this economy is as such to where it's not necessarily the women's fault. I'm definitely, this is not a, I'm not shitting on women that are feminist or feminism or anything. I'm just stating that, basically this environment, the way it is, it doesn't necessarily have 100% to do with women. Neither did they have anything to do with how women were more um open and willing to get down in the 90s. Didn't have nothing to do with them. It was the environment. Women were reacting to the environment. Money is flowing. The money is plentiful at that time. The environment was, pretty calm. And those two things played a role into why men and women interacted in the way that they did. I mean, it was another thing that the music. I will say the music does have something to do with it as well. I don't ever want to omit that fact, because the music does play a role. It's the soundtrack of life, right? Music is the soundtrack of life, right? So when, in the 90s, the soundtrack was, it was, R&B love songs, and it was, it was converting into the, like, the, like, little sexy songs and stuff. You did have the Dina Howards, and um you had the Black Streets, and the different groups and stuff like that. The shake music and all of that was starting to kind of take off. But the thing, it was still love songs. Like, people were, singing love songs. Now you have today, people just, R&B is just fuck songs, sex songs, right? Like, it ain't really no love hardly in it. If you really pay attention, ain't no love in the music. It's no love in the music. So people don't really, you know, it's no love in the music. It's no love in the people, right? That's why, people are not all lovey dovey like that. It's not like that, because the music is a soundtrack to life. So whatever the soundtrack is playing, that's what people, react to. You know, in case you didn't know, yeah, music is very, very important. That's why the consolidation of the music industry to Warner Brothers, Sony, Universal Music Group, being this three-headed monster, this three-headed giant, that basically, they're just lost leaders. They don't really, I mean, they basically pushing propaganda. They they you know they um they can basically get funding, or they can get secret funding or whatever, to keep this up. Because, see, one of the things that the elites do is, they don't really want a bunch of people making love music, really, to be honest, because they don't want a bunch of babies. They want the population to be low. And in my opinion, my strong, humble opinion, as far as what I've seen and what I noticed, they don't want the population to be high. If it's a bunch of people loving on each other, and making love music and all of that, they're gonna be making babies. They don't want that. So they're trying to control people in what they want to, in what they do, by manipulating the environment, the music, and the economy. That's basically what I'm saying. Now, it's other things that play a role in that, but the basis of it is, the reason why a lot of men, especially young men, have gone MGTOW without even knowing anything about MGTOW, or even are going to the passport bro route, is because this environment has basically made women the way they are, and they're hard to get. I admit, like, I will say, from, let's just say, 1996, or to now, women are more harder to get than they were, as far as, like, in the 90s. Like, now, is things easier? Yeah, you can use the app, and you could be screwing in 2 hours flat, like, because of technology, right? It is easier to meet people. I will admit that is a change. But the thing is you got to understand that now you got a different type of woman, because the environment is different, and the economy is different. When women do not have money, they act differently. When the environment is different, they act differently. They are no different than anybody else. And men react to how women act. If women are playing hard to get, they go elsewhere, or they just suffer and deal with it. I will say, for by default, because men are just kind of defaulting to MGTOW, they're just suffering dealing with it, because they don't necessarily want to be passport bros, or they don't have enough money to travel, or they don't. they're not serious about it, or whatever. They can't get a passport, or whatever the case may be. They just dealing with it the best way they can. And the thing is that a lot of men have kind of defaulted into this behavior of a MGTOW. And a lot of people don't really understand what a MGTOW is. You got different levels of MGTOW. You have the most extreme is the monk, which is basically a man that doesn't have sex with women, don't even date women, just kind of just on his own. Like, just the idea of it is, let's just say a Tibetan monk in a cave, meditating all day, eating rice, and fasting and praying and chanting and meditating, like just abstaining from sex and all of that. Like, so that's just one level. That's not all MGTOW. Not all MGTOW. See, a lot of people are so dumb and stupid, they don't understand anything. So they think all MGTOWs are just no pussy getting, or no, whatever, dudes that don't get laid or don't want to get laid, and they monks. No, that's just one level of it, or one, grouping of it, or sector, or whatever. Uh, Most MGTOWs are just men that live by a principle of basically not getting the woman pregnant. They date women, they deal with women, they might even be in a relationship with the woman, but they're not trying to get her pregnant, or they're not getting married to the woman, because it's not because the woman is a bad woman, and they don't want to get they don't want to get married to the woman. That's not the point. The point is, the government has laws that are unfavorable to men. If you start to the process of signing paperwork and getting married, and basically filing state paperwork with the state, and you are upheld to a certain level of responsibility, that the woman could exercise, if she chooses. And a lot of women have exercised that, you know that option to file for, child support, and I mean, unnecessarily high amounts of child support. The children are like 3 years old and 2 years old, and she's demanding for $15,000 a month, when a 2 and 3 year old, they can barely finish a fucking small bowl of cereal. I mean, I got daughters that are like, they get into the teens, they can't even eat a full sandwich. I got one daughter, she got a bigger appetite, and she's the youngest, and the oldest, she barely finishes a sandwich, little small kids meal sandwich. So it's like, I mean, a whole plate of food, she probably take like a few bites of it, or quite a few bites of it, and then that's it. Like, and she's 10 years old. So you just imagine somebody, a 5-year-old baby and a 4-year-old baby, they're not eating anything. They don't need $15,000. It's all because the woman wants a particular lifestyle, or a type of a certain amount of money to do whatever she wants to. Or it could be both. It could be that, or secondly, women use the courts and the laws to punish men. And the laws were, because the plutocrats, which is the elite lawmakers that run the country, that influence laws and create laws, they designed this to undermine men, to undermine basically working class and poor men. you know they designed this, they push these laws for tools to basically use these women as basically chess pieces to go against men. And feminists know this. The smart, glass wearing, PhD student, graduate level, bachelor's level, well read feminists, they know this. They know this system was designed and these laws were designed to undermine men. You know, they talk about the patriarchy, but the patriarchy is not working class and poor men. The patriarchy is actually the basically the basically the government. The government is actually the patriarchy. Women always talk about the patriarchy, but the patriarchy is the government. It's not, the dude, the mailman delivering mail. It's not the fucking patriarchy. It's not part of the patriarchy. The guy is, you know, doing oil changes at Jiffy Lube. Is not the patriarchy. The patriarchy is, at the very least, that officer that is going to come to you and pull you over. And if you're some disrespectful cunt that can't keep her mouth shut and is used to talking to men any kind of way you want to, that is the first level of patriarchy that you would have to deal with, because he has the power to, do what is necessary to subdue you if he has to. That's the fucking patriarchy. Any man without power, is not quote unquote patriarchal. It's not the patriarchy, right? So, police, if you don't comply, they gonna pull you out your car. They gonna pepper spray you. They gonna mace you or whatever. They gonna pull out the stun gun. And if you keep progressing, or let's just say you run to them, and the stun gun don't work, they gonna pop some lead in your ass. They don't really want to do it because it faces all kinds of problems and legal problems, all kind. It just opens up so much when they have to do a officer involved shooting, that they just don't. They really want to, they not trying, because like, second a police officer shoots someone, it's gonna go viral. It's gonna be, depending on how bad the situation is, people are gonna get involved. It's gonna be part of the media machine for weeks, if not longer. It's just a bunch of mess. So they don't really want to do that. Like, most of them, they trying to stay away from that. But you got bad police officers as well. But the whole point is, yes, that's the first level, I would say, of what the true patriarchy is, because they have power. They're an arm of the government. Your local police is like, a local arm of the government. So, judges, politicians, that's the true patriarchy. It's they the ones that have the powers to create these laws, change the laws, and all of that. So it's because of the laws are the way they are. Men can get um basically abused. They can get abused by these laws. And the women know this. They know this, and they, when they get upset, because you got quite a few women, when they get a divorce, they're upset with the man. And when they're upset, like my ex-wife, she wasn't upset with me. Like, when she filed divorce, it wasn't because she was upset with me. She was looking out for her best interests and what she thought was gonna be. Like, she thought something like the worst case scenario, and she just filed divorce in order to just separate herself from what I was going through. Because it was more about me and what I was going through at the time. Like, that's why she filed divorce. But you got some women, they're upset with the man, their husband. So when they file divorce, their intentions is to inflict a certain level of financial abuse on their husband, And that's one of the purposes why they're asking for so much money, and even they're using their children as pawns. And I hate when women do this. This is like the most, this is like, kind of evil like to do. And it becomes acceptable to other women, and women don't really say nothing about it. Other women doesn't they don't talk about how their friends keep their purposely keep their children away from their fathers because they're pissed off at him because she didn't have her way, or he wouldn't let her do whatever she want to. He moved on and then got someone else, and yeah, they one of their bags of tricks is trying to keep their children away from the father. It's pretty common. It's a quite common thing that some women do, and it's quite a few women that do this. And the thing is that um, they also try to inflict some type of financial abuse on their ex-husband by asking for an exorbitant amount of child support, an exorbitant amount of spousal support, or alimony, and 100% custody, meaning the father doesn't get any custody whatsoever. They ask for these things because they're spiteful. They feel they're mean and evil about the situation, because they feel they got slighted or something else or whatever. So they want to abuse. Their modus operandi is to abuse the spouse, the husband or ex-husband. Like, that's what their motives is. So that's why they do what they do, right? Or their attorney convinces them, because the attorney's motive is the maximum amount of capital that they can get. They want they convince the ex-wife or whatever to be, or wife, to ask for an exorbitant amount, because they can, and then to have the husband pay for the lawyer fees as well, and it's just all of these things that it's just like, if you put it in a box, right, and it's just a box, a can of whoop ass that men have been, just basically taken, and mainly men that can't afford to pay these things. I just keep in mind, like, 90% of men cannot afford to pay for all of these things, or they, I'll just say about 70% for sure. 70% of men can't afford to pay all of these things. It puts a lot of men in deep financial despair, trying to take care of these things, trying to pay all of these things. And I mean, of course, there is deadbeats, and there's dudes that ain't shit and all of that. And I get that. But most men are not deadbeats and ain't shit. You know, they dealt with some woman that they just couldn't get along with, or whatever the case may be. It might even been a situation where they just both agreed to separate or get divorced, and you know it just, the situation is, if she files child support, that man has to pay that child support. It's deducted from his paycheck. He has to take care of certain things, and budget certain things that he normally wouldn't have to do, because he had an extra $1,500 in his account or whatever every month, or what. It's quite a few things, that it really is a life-changing thing when a man is being, put on child support. It's like, imagine you getting a bill that you never had before, that is expensive, that even almost the price of rent, you know Imagine you having to pay rent twice every month. You know, you got your actual rent that you have to pay, but you got to pay another proportion of rent. You know, and it's like, yeah, it puts a financial burden on a lot of men. And you know, the thing is like these laws were created to undermine these men. You know, so they don't. That's why they don't get married. They don't get married. They don't have children because the child support thing is a it's a tool that women have abused. It was supposed to be a tool to deal with because a long time ago, even my grandfather, he told me that um his father had children across town, you know, in Abita, Mississippi. His dad, you know, was like a lot of men back in the day, back in the 1900s, and even now, you know, I mean, I may or may not be, you know, let me get out of there. But I mean, yeah, men, you know, spread they seed. You know, they went across town and, you know, met Betty Sue and knocked up Betty Sue. You know, and they got, you know, they got a kid or a few kids across town. So child support laws were created for, you know, those Johnny Appleseeds that indiscriminately was spreading their seed far and wide, creating all of these families, you know, with these single moms and destitute, scrubbing floors and doing chores for whoever to, you know, make money to feed her children because she didn't have a husband. Because some dude across town that looked pretty good, you know, rubbed one off in her and she enjoyed it, but you know, she got pregnant and had some kids. And the dude don't really come around. She don't really know where he is. You know, she don't even, you know, he from across town, but he don't really she don't really know. You know, she got about a whereabout of where he stay, but you know, he got another family and she, you know, she don't want to be involved in all of that. You know, the wife don't even know he got you know, a mistress or you know, someone across town. Maybe the man comes around every now and again and drops off some coins, give us some coins, you know. But it was a lot of men that probably never came by or never came back, you know. Left the woman destitute with these children. So that's where child support and you know, all of this stuff came in, you know, welfare, you know, um this is where all this came from because you had a lot of women that were poor and destitute and they had children and the men were no longer available, or maybe even, to be honest, let's be real, a lot of people died in wars. A lot of people died in World War I. A lot of men died in World War II, and when they died they left these children, you know, that you know, you know, the mom had to take care of these children and she was a widow. So, you know, this is why this was created. But women have, you know, long time ago started to use it to abuse men. It was a tool, it was a feminist tool to abuse. It converted it. It started, it's just like everything, like a lot of things, like, you know, they say the gangs were started. It was it was it was like a benevolent start to the gangs, right? They were neighborhood protection, you know, you know, for, you know, like racists, you know, that came into town and started trouble. And then it started to become malevolent to where the, you know, it started to sell drugs and he's, you know, started to terrorize the same people that they were started to quote unquote protect the community. They started to actually destroy the community, you know. um and it's like, you know, basically that's the same thing with child support. You know, it started to it was started to help women that were widows and had husbands or men that have left them with children, left them needy with children. That's why child support was created. That's why welfare was created. And I mean, the government, they not gonna necessarily let people abuse them like that. They don't really, they don't really play with that like that. You can, go to prison if you try to abuse welfare, you try to commit welfare fraud and all of that. But women, basically were able to use the child support laws as a tool to um put unnecessary financial strain on men. It wasn't like they just wanted. It's not like all women just wanted the basic, requirements of what what child support brings. No, they wanted to. You had those, women that were mad at the husband or boyfriend because he moved on, he didn't want to marry them or whatever. They use that as a tool to abuse those, to financially put financial harm to those men, you know to inflict damage on them for breaking their heart. So that became, something that, was malevolent, to where it's not just about women that were left needy with children and widows. It became, oh, I'm gonna come up off of this dude. I'm a I'm gonna get back at this dude for leaving me and marrying somebody else. You know, um, it became something that it was a finesse. It turned into a big finesse, and that's what it is now for the most part. And again, MGTOW principles are avoiding marriage and avoiding having children because because of the financial abuse that these laws are able to be used by women to abuse men. I mean, that is the core principles of what MGTOW is, and why they don't want to get married and why they don't want to have children. But most of MGTOW men do have sex with women. They it's a small, I guess, minority of men that are probably MGTOW monks. But even them, they'll get out of it and go get a girlfriend or something like that. Or get their fun or whatever every now and again. So it's not all inclusive. I mean, it has, that the whole idea of that is, I mean, I don't know how many MGTOW monks there are, but I definitely a small minority. And for some reason or another, somebody pushed the narrative that all MGTOWs were just dudes that can't get no women, and they just was monks and not actually having sex with women. And it's like, yeah, most MGTOW men just have um very general relationships with women. Like they just deal with women whenever. I mean, it's a normal um dating experience. I mean, like that's what most men do. But I mean, again, the whole principle of it is just not to get married and not have children. So that's what the card carrying MGTOWs, they know and they practice. I mean, what I'm saying is, because of this environment and the economy, men are reacting to how women are, and you add social media to the mix and the internet. The average, you got women that are below mid, that because they get a bunch of likes on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, their heads is blown up. And then, they're spreading information to other women, And basically other women are telling other women to play hard to get, and they're actually doing that. So if they're hard to get, then it's gonna be a lot of men that ain't gonna be able to get them, or not want to chase them and all of that, or try to get them because they playing too hard to get or whatever. And it's like, yeah, men just have, in response to that, to that behavior in their environment, they have just gone, they just pretty much said, put the deuces up, and they just do whatever they do, whatever that is. They might buy escorts online, or they might you know be passport bros, or sugar daddies, or um they just don't deal with women at all, or they, I don't know, they deal with other women of uh I don't know, other races or whatever, whoever is the nicest one that they could deal with. And that's going to leave a lot of women out to dry. And that's what's going on, because you got a whole bunch of women that have kind of, to a certain extent, they respond to the environment just how they responded to it. And they might have even been afflicted by how they were raised by their parents, because a lot of women were, both men and women were raised by single moms. So they're taught by their mother how to survive in this environment. And that, most likely, the way they were taught is basically non-conventional, not normal. So when you have a bunch of people that were raised in a non-normal way or abnormal way, they grow up and create the new normal, or at least try to create the new normal. And that's why you have words like pick me and all of that, because you got a bunch of women that were raised to not really um look at men in high regard. Their mom hated men, their aunts, their sisters, their cousins. So then they grow up and hate men. So they look at women that don't hate men, that are just, basically standard women. They call them pick me's. And this is what happens when you have abnormality. Those people grow up and they create a new normal, or they try to push a new normal. And this is also a cause and effect to why this environment is the way it is. You got an army of single mothers, that basically created new soldiers, you know um and now they're older now, and they act the way they act. They have the behavior of how they grew up in their environment, raised by their single mom. In good or bad, the men have to deal with this. They have to deal with the women that are in this environment. So you got basically an army, a new army, second generation, third generation army of women that were raised by single moms. They reacted to the environment. Their mom was getting it on in the 90s, had them, and now they grown up, and they they had to deal with their mom reacting to the environment, being a single mom. So then now they creating, they were created and they were raised in abnormality. And then you grow up and try to conform your abnormality to make it normal, and thus creating a new normal. So it's like, the men, take it or leave it. They have some certain you know things that they have to deal with, because they were raised by a single mom. They're highly emotional, highly sensitive, and they don't know how to really deal with pressure. They don't know how to work. They have a problem maintaining and keeping jobs, maintaining and keeping consistency because they weren't raised with a man. I remember when I was a young boy, I used to see my dad out of the house in the morning. He was a cab driver. I would see most days I would see my dad out the door in the morning. You know what impact that has on my brain and my psyche when I seen my dad every day for decades wake up and basically when I was coming home he was gone. He was in the morning he would leave and go go drive and that was what I saw. Like to this day I can't stay at home. I don't care if I got a job or not. I can't stay in the house and not make no money. I got to go out and make money regardless of whatever. That's just how, that's just all I know. That's what I know. That's what I saw. In my environment, I saw it. I saw my father go out and get money. Go out and make money. Go out and work. So that's what I know how to do. So imagine a little boy that never saw that, or he saw his daddy selling drugs, or he saw his daddy using drugs, or he didn't see no dad. It wasn't no dad to see. He saw his mama. All he saw was his mama. So he's growing up. He's got female mannerisms. He's got sensitive emotions. Very very emotional. And can't maintain consistent work. Can't maintain consistency. And it's like, yeah, that plays a role in the environment of the women reacting to that. They're out kicking ass. They're out fucking, doing kung fu in the fucking college and high school, and getting their degrees, and trying to do the same thing in the workforce, and what I'm saying, like they a lot of their counterparts are men that can't work, can't keep consistent, have a issue with consistency, have an issue with making money because they ain't really making no money. Now don't get me wrong, there is something to play it here because black women, um, just basically universally, they have been used. They have been looked at different. Black women are, and you got a lot of black women that admit that they understand it. Maybe to a certain extent they do understand that they're chosen before black men are chosen because they're looked at. One, they're the weaker of the sex, so women are not intimidated. Women are not intimidating. Even though a lot of women, they try to, they be acting all rah rah and all masculine and stuff like that, and barking, being aggressive. You know, at the end of the day, they're they're women. Men know they're one right hook away from being on the floor. They just they don't know who's gonna fall for the wolf cookies or not. But the whole point is that women are basically looked at as non-threatening, and they're women, so it's they might Susie's out for the day or for the weekend or vacation, but Keisha will do for my after morning coffee, um, freak off. Just as far as the executive or whatever, working for the company. She they choose black women to basically undermine black men as well. Very much so. They heavily use black women to undermine black men. It's so obvious. Stevie Wonder can see that shit. Everybody saw, like, I remember I saw that. I noticed that when I was, it took me to my early 20s. My early 20s, I started to notice. I started to see. Like, I remember, I never forget. Like, I woke up one day and I got on the train and I went to downtown, and I noticed most of the black women were working or going to work, mostly. And it was like, okay, this is weird here. This is, I'm like, okay, this is something to this. This is crazy. And I noticed it. I was like, oh. And then, this was during the time where I was definitely becoming, more conscious or whatever. And I started to, just kind of, go in the rabbit hole or whatever. But yeah, like, definitely. I mean, wholeheartedly, like, that shit go back to the slave days and the plantation and all of that shit. So yeah, they use black women to basically, um, you know, do their bidding, to a certain extent. Um, they'll take on them. They'll give them the first opportunity, right? So, like, the thing is so yeah, a lot of black men, they don't they it is quite a few black men that do earn and make money, and are competitive as far as things, but it is quite a few black men that aren't. you know um for every one man that's successful, one black man is successful, it's probably at least 10 or more that are not, that are either low wage earners, are struggling with jobs or unemployment, struggling with, financial problems and all of that. And you know women, are quite successful for as far as the standard, because yeah, they are chosen above, black men. And then also, you do have women do work with each other, and kind of work with each other more. um I'll just say, black women have more unity amongst themselves than black men do. you know they will try to help each other out, give the other friend, uh um a no a loan, that they don't have to pay back. I don't know how many times I heard a woman tell me her friend gave her a loan, and told her specifically not to pay her back. You don't have to worry about it. I know times is hard. You lost your job. You going through it, and this, that, and third. Here's $500 to help you get on your feet for a little bit. I know that's not a lot, but at least it's something. And, like, yeah, when I don't have no story. Like, my friend, he did give me some money or whatever, and he said that. But I mean, he's a really good friend of mine. I mean, it ain't like it's kind of a favor for a favor thing. And whatever he need, I got him. But I mean, he's like a good friend. Like, I mean, it's like one, okay. I mean, like, it's women, that's pretty standard for other women to help each other out, give other women, give their friends loans that, um they ain't got to pay back or whatever, do favors for them, let them stay at their house for a little while. Yeah, women do that, man. Men not so much. And the thing is like, um I say all of this to say that, it's just, women, they do have an imbalance as far as the women that are successful or professional to some degree or another. They don't really have that many counterparts. It's like it's not a 1-to-1 ratio with successful black women to black men. I will say that. I mean, that's not nothing new, but yeah, that is a fact. So it is a situation to where you do have a lot of black women that they don't really have um like a big ratio of successful men to really choose from. But you do also have black women that run away from successful men as well, because they don't want to listen to a successful man. Because one thing about a successful man, you know um a successful man ain't got to listen to you. He is the boss. He's used to, some degree or another, he's probably in a role where he is the boss. He's a higher up or whatever. He ain't gonna listen to you. He knows most men, generally speaking, know men are, I mean, women supposed to listen to men. That's just the order of things. It's no different than what Captain Samuel said. The order of it's a hierarchy. God, man, women, child. The women are over the children. Men are over women. God is over men. And it's like, the thing is like, yeah, women know that, but they don't. You got a lot of women that they weren't raised with a father. So that's where they have issues and everything, because they don't know nothing about listening to no father or listening to no man, because they never had to. You got women that live their whole life and they ain't never listened to no man because there was no man around for them to to listen to. If they was raised with a single mom, the father wasn't around, they went their whole life, their whole adult life, their whole childhood, infancy, not having to listen to no man. That's why they have a problem. I'm a scientist to this shit. Like I'm a goddamn, I'm a damn PhD doctor. I can, sit your ass in a chair on the couch, man. Level as far as what I know about, this dysfunction and why things are the way they are, you know, in society and all of that. Like so the thing is yeah, like they went their whole life and never had to listen to a man, or never, um, basically had no man was around for them to take orders from or listen to. you know um so they have a problem with that. They have a deep embedded problem with that. You got a woman that was raised by her father and her mom, and she grew up from the time she was a little to the time she learned how to talk and listen. She took orders from her father, and that's what she knows. She grew up comfortable. When her father said something, she abide by it. She responded, or she tried to do it as fast as she could possibly do, or explain, or whatever. She's used to that. My ex girlfriend, she was raised by her mom and dad. You know, she is very, very much like, it's night and day. She's a night and day comparison to my ex-wife, that she did have her father in her life, but she wasn't raised with her father and her mom. She wasn't even really, to be honest, raised with her mom. Her mom was on crack, you know. But the thing is like, yeah, it's a difference between a woman that was raised with her father and, a woman that wasn't. Like, it's a night and day difference. And those women definitely are definitely trying to take a beeline to men that are, successful, or standard men that just, don't have to listen to them, and are not going to listen to them, and know the order is as such as you supposed to listen to me. Like, they know that, and they they live by that. And it's like, the women that are okay with that, they're fine. But a lot of women, they don't know nothing about that, and that's why they run away from certain men, because they go towards men that are beneath them in a certain level of standard. May not have no job, may have a record to where he can't get a job or whatever. Don't have any substantial skills, because at the very end of the day, they can argue with those men. If not nothing else, it's just one general thing that they can do. They can argue with those men, and those men are more vulnerable in that argument, because they might not have no place to go. And it's even women that they try to do certain things to make the man broke, to keep the man perpetually not without money, so he can't leave. So he can't leave her, and leave her abuse. Because yeah, women are abusive women can be abusive as well. Like both both men, a lot of times the narrative is that men are abusive, as if women have no ability to be abusive. Women are very capable of abuse, if not even worse. Women can be just as abusive as men. Even more, I would even say more. But yeah, women are definitely abusive. Okay, and the way they might abuse you might be different. They might not always be physical, but starting arguments, and arguing with you, or be very very easily able to be, or easily able to start an argument. They do those things to certain men that will respond to that, or maybe even have to respond to that for whatever reason, because those men, to a lesser degree or another, um one, deal with that. Because I'm not saying just because men don't make a certain amount of money or whatever, that they deal with that, because it is I'm quite certain that it is men that don't earn hardly anything or whatever, or don't make as much, or whatever the case may be. They still won't accept that. They it, you know it's just certain men that maybe definitely not earning enough money, or earn as much as they do, that they might even be in a certain level, uh to a degree, on a progressive level of the relationship, to where, like, let's just say they're already married and they have children. That guy, he more or less might have put up with that. He might listen to that, or entertain that behavior. Whereas other men, they won't tolerate that at all. Like me, at my point in life, and where I'm at, I will never tolerate it. I will never in my life tolerate that. As far as me living with a woman, and in a relationship with a woman, and dealing with disrespect, constant disrespect, constant arguing, and all of that. Like, never. I can wholeheartedly, I mean, if not nothing else, say that I won't tolerate that. So they get with me in that they believe, or will tolerate their foolishness. And that's just what they do, because they can't get with a successful man. Even though they say that they want that, but they know that they can't, deep down, they can't get those men, or they don't want those men. Actually, they run away from those men, because those men require a certain behavior that they can't um they can't deliver. They can't. It's a lot of women that are incapable of behaving a certain way. It's like a child. that has a behavioral problem, and they have to go to special ed because they have this behavior that they cannot stop, and it's disruptive to the other children, so they have to go to another part of the school, and they probably stay in the same classroom all day, and they got IEPs, and they might go see a therapist or whatever, the school therapist, the school psychologist or whatever, because they have a particular behavior that they can't stop. They might have something going on at home, whatever. And the thing is like, yeah, a lot of women, they can't they can't respond to men in a certain way to where the relationship is cohesive, and both parties are getting what they want, and they're getting the respect that they want, and it's not an argument every single day or whatever. Like, um they can't you got certain women that they can't deliver that, because they it's like a wild wolf trying to be a dog, a house pet, a pet dog, or a domesticated dog. That wolf, it was raised in his environment, it lived in his environment, and his behavior responds from that environment and the way he was raised. You got documented cases of like a little girl or boy being lost or abandoned or whatever in the woods, and it literally had to it you can look it up, it's on YouTube. You look up wolf boy or wolf girl, like it is actually humans that they were raised by wolves, like they were abandoning a child in some kind of way, they had to survive in the woods, and they were raised by a pack of wolves. I kid you not. I wish man, I wish I'm making this up. I am not making this up. It's happened. And that I mean, they're adult now, and they behave in their behavior is that of a wolf. They don't know anything else. And it's almost like they become retarded. It's full retardation because they don't know anything else. They're gonna be like that for the rest of their life. They don't know anything else but to mimic a wolf and act like a wolf. They like it's like they're permanently retarded. And if they were raised normally, they wouldn't be they wouldn't exhibit those behaviors. And it's weird, and it's like the human mind is very, very, very profound. It's so deep, but it's like, yeah, that person, once they raised like that, they can't go back. It's not like they can reprogram them to be a normal adult or at least close to it. No, they gonna be acting like a wolf till they dead and gone. They'll be in a psych ward or a nursing home, whatever, and acting like a wolf for the rest of their life. They will not get out of that, because there's something about the brain and development, and how you were raised and who you were raised by, that is very, very key to your development and how you are as a person, or a animal, and it's like, yeah, you got a lot of women that unfortunately they stay clear of me. They listen to me in the fucking shadows, like, man, they in the clouds, they above the clouds, listening to me because they know what I'm saying is correct. They absolutely know, you know. Um, I'm definitely the preacher telling the truth, and it might hurt or whatever. I'm damn near shit better than they pastor at church. And it's like, preaching the gospel. But the thing is like, yeah, these women, they don't they not a lot of them are incapable of listening to a man because they already been um fully their conscious, their philosophy, their mindset, their conscious and subconscious has already been fully developed. I mean, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Like, I mean, it already developed the conscious, subconscious, and it's it. It's no reversing that. It's like that's why I keep talking about like, I was like, I did a video because Sergeant Willie Pete was talking about, if men get more money and they could pay for more and they could, start families and have more babies and all of that. And I'm like, well, the thing is, it's like the damage has already been done. And you got one problem with that. It's not like you could just go out. I mean, yeah, they get into it, but it's gonna be a while before they do the like the like you can birth a baby at home, or like the incubator, 2005 or whatever, 2025 or 1000. The incubator 1000 has not came out to where you could just basically birth a baby at home. Wait 9 months and the baby fully incubates, and then I mean that world is not, you know it's not here yet, is where that's common, or whatever. I know they be doing all kind of crazy shit in science and the labs and all the kind of crazy underground shit they probably got going on. But the thing is, the average everyday person, they need to go through, and that's what he was talking about. He was talking about, basically men that make more money can go and start a family, and a family is with a wife and children and all of that, and they're delaying that because they ain't got no money. And I'm like, well, I would say some people might be affected by that, and that will help them out if men, quote unquote, start making some more money, or let's just say the business class start paying people, or the government put pressure on the business class to pay people more money and whatever. Some people might benefit from that, but you got to understand, the problem is you have a societal problem to where, again, you have men and women that were affected by a certain way that they were you know raised, and that was raised, being raised by a single mom. And they, you know basically it, you know psychology is like this, okay? um one of the things that I learned when I was, going to school to be a social worker, like, basically, if you're raised, if you had a dysfunctional upbringing, I'll just say that. If most people that had some type of dysfunctional upbringing, they have a hard time having a functional marriage, or a functional relationship with women, or whatever, or just a functional relationship with anyone. Okay, they have problems with relationships. They usually transpires to um to relationships, to their own personal relationships when they grow up. So you got a situation to where you have an army of basically households that were ran by a single mom. Those children already have grown up. They're Gen Zs and millennials, and some Gen Xers. I'm not necessarily talking about the Gen Xers, because the Gen Xers are already fried. They're already, burnt to a crisp. Okay, they're not necessarily relevant to the conversation. If anything, they did raise they did raise some of these single adults. I mean, or some of these children that are adults now. They, Gen Xers, the older, or Gen Xers, basically, they were the single moms that raised these children. But the thing is that because it was so many households that were raised basically in a dysfunctional household. And if I guarantee you, if a bunch of women join a panel, like let's just say the Lapeef show or the Lapeef network, or this might be risky. Some of those women, or if not, maybe all of them, will not admit that a single mother household, or even a single household, a single father household, not, I mean, that's not a functional necessarily household. That's not, it wasn't designed, functionality was not designed for single people to raise children. It was designed for a mother and father. So anything that's different is a dysfunctional upbringing. And what I'm saying is, I don't think a lot of women will argue that being a single mom, or raising children being a single mom, is not a dysfunctional household. That's what they would say. That they will argue against that. And the thing is that whether they like it or not, raising children in a single parent household is a dysfunctional household. So you had basically a widespread, uh just reality, to where it was a bunch of single mothers um raising children by themselves in a dysfunctional household. So they grow up to what? They're having relationship issues, because they dealing with them being raised in their environment dysfunctionally. Because I mean, like I said, like, this is what they were talking about in psychology, in the psychology books. Like a lot of people that grew up in a dysfunctional household had issues with relationships. So it's like, okay, money is not gonna fix that. Money is no, it's like, money does give you certain powers and all kinds of stuff. It opens doors, all shit, but it's not magic to the point where, you know it's not, the magic that money has is very limited. It's not going to reverse someone's psyche, or conscious. It's not going to make someone behave. It might make someone put on an act as if they were behaving. That's why when they say women are chameleons, like that, that's what they talking about. Like you can have women that'll put on a man, they'll put on an act for as long as they can, and then until the act is over. You got some women that are good, that good. That's almost spy, secret agent type, skills, to just, act like you're this, nice, housewife for 5 years, till you no longer have to do that, or to put on that act. I mean, other than that, like, you can't make no money is gonna make someone, you know behave normally, behave a certain way. So you're gonna have a lot of, even if that reality became true, to where a bunch of men made a whole bunch of money, like, they're gonna have an issue with, definitely gonna have an issue with black women, because it's a lot of black women that were raised in a dysfunctional family, a single mom raised household. Whether they like to admit that was dysfunctional or not, it is. as far as classification, general classification, that is definitely a dysfunctional household, absent of the father, right? But um the thing is like, because there's so many women that were raised like that, and will in essence have issues and are already having issues with relationships, because of um that fact of being raised in a dysfunctional household. Those men would have to basically deal with other women of different races, if not nothing else, go outside of the country. And because basically, um you know even money, even a lot of black men that are successful, they do have a problem with women, not being able to, kind of to a certain extent, be submissive, or basically, um even be cooperative enough to basically have a stable relationship that leads to children, marriage, and all of that type of stuff. They have an issue with finding women that can do that. And it's like, because there's so many dysfunctional black women, it is not that many women that are functional, that were raised in a functional household. You do have um basically normal, or two-parent households that were dysfunctional too. I admit, like, there is a certain level of dysfunctional behavior that you know two-parent households have as well. That still affects you. So I mean, that is it is an aspect as well. But the thing is, like, okay, at the end of the day, like, you got degrees of dysfunctionality. I mean, it's like, at least you, basically, a dude, a father that might even be a drunkard or whatever, and he still, you still live with him. It's better than he be there and be a drunkard, and then for you to not have no father at all. I know it might sound crazy, it might sound like retarded, backwards. Um, Emotionally, you might feel that is not true, but I'm just saying, just in general, a father is very, very important. It's a factor that a lot of people they just don't know how powerful it is. And they just basically, because they don't understand how powerful it is, they they basically devalue it. It almost has, to a lot of women, having a father, the aspect of a father, is in the household, is just not, it's not nothing that is of value, right? But a man does have value. It you know that's the factor of what a lot of people, that's why the math is all fucked up now, because basically men do have value. Men have quite generally, some value that they hold. Like, for example, one value that men have is security. Men are intimidated only by other men. Men will never be intimidated by women. That's why women are targeted, because they're not with any other man. They're by themselves. Now, the thing is when you have a man, that the chances of you basically getting, becoming a victim of some type of crime goes down significantly with the man's presence. It's like, very simply, like, if you don't, like, to help you understand, just imagine you have a German Shepherd. A German Shepherd if like people can't walk past your house, they can hear the German Shepherd. If you let them out in the yard, they can really hear him, and they can, feel his presence, behind the gate. He lets his presence be known. This is my territory. Back off. Um, warning. He lets off warning. Nobody's gonna come in that house. That German Shepherd is going to um intimidate most people, most burglars from trying to break into your house. It's just a fact. It's like an old security system. And a man is maybe not as intimidating as the German Shepherd, but is intimidating. And then men tend to have, power tools, to take shell casings, in in their home, right? And they can even fight, to tend to fight, right? That factor of that man being there is a deterrent from other men that most likely will burglarize a home or do something else or whatever. Like, so that's security, and it's other factors. It's emotional support, being there, having, somewhere, just to describe men, I'll just say, like when I was talking about women or cars, men are like dogs. It's like, having a companion, and the dog, he's gonna hump your leg. I mean, like, men do have some value generally. I'm not trying to break down everything. This video is already becoming very lengthy. But it's like men do have some type of, various different values, and not having that there, even though, I was talking about the drunk dad that maybe, gets mad and hits the wife. It is better for him to actually, be there, if that's all he had, than not. Other than the abuse, if it's like really abusive, then no, it's like counterproductive. She needs to go, get a stepdad, but it's different degrees of dysfunction. But let's just say the dad just got drunk, and, he got pissy drunk every now and again, like once or twice, maybe once a month or every couple months, he get pissy drunk, and, he's roaming the streets, and your mom has to go walk around the neighborhood and then brings him back. It is better for you to have that man being there, and then sometimes he's sober, he's just normally functioning. It's better to you to have something than nothing. And it's like, that's because men are so devalued, especially devalued now. I mean, a lot of women don't see any value in a man being there. It's just they don't understand men's value. It's like, even, I would say men understand women's value, but a lot of women don't really understand men's value. I'll say I'll say basically, the women that probably do understand men's value the most, I would have to say, is white women and Asian women. And I mean, I'm not gonna break down why that is, but they do understand men's value the most. Like I mean, in my experience, as far as even what I've seen, they can kind of see. They almost like, I mean, white women are like, they kind of almost like really good investors when they see men. Like white. I've seen a lot of white men. I mean, not white men, but white women get with black dudes that were like underdogs, and they knew that they had it in them. They knew, like, it's like almost like they could see the dog in them, and they was just underdogs. And then next thing you know, they Um, they get with him, kind of be the cheerleader. And then next thing you know, this guy, man, is, multi-millionaire, successful, et cetera, whatever. And he's doing really, really well, doing even better than she was. Like, um, or he's got a, really good job, and he's, able to pay the bills and everything like that. When she met him, he was unemployed, living with his mom, they able to, kind of see underdogs the like better than probably a lot of other women. Even to be honest, quite a few black women. Not to say that black women don't give black men. I mean, a lot of black women do give black men a chance as far as to be with them or whatever, even if they don't really have that much. Like, I'm not gonna say black women don't have the ability to do the same thing, but um, a lot of um, a lot of black women don't know how to see see through a man that is a good investment, that might be, low value now or whatever, or, you know, trying to, figure himself out, or, you know, a diamond in the rough or whatever to speak, so to speak. They just, I don't know, like they just don't really see the future, or don't see, I don't know. They just, they don't see certain things or whatever. And then next thing you know, the guy gets successful. He sees the same woman at the Piggly Wiggly. He's, doing good. He got a Jaguar in the parking lot. It's like, it's just, some, and then she's a single mom of three, with a, a ex-boyfriend that lives across town, and it's like, yeah, I mean, it happens because a lot of times women just don't know how to choose men, to be honest. Like, it's not, it's, generally speaking, most women do not know how to choose. And black women, they really suffer because they don't really, because of the fathers not being in the house. They the worst at picking men because they don't even have a template to go by. So they just picking all kind of fucked up, dudes or whatever. So they picking the worst dudes. But the thing is like, yeah, the thing is that the whole point is, men don't really have much to look forward to as far as relationships, because they're dealing with the environment and the economy as such. And it's, women are, dealing with all kinds of dysfunctional behavior, and they, their default is to play hard to get. They getting likes on Instagram, is blowing their heads up, so they got a big ego, and it's bigger than, reality, and then their standards are way too high, and then you add the fact that, they're playing hard to get. A lot of men have just defaulted into almost being a MGTOW. And typically, like, it's very common for MGTOWs to even, have a budget, like, have a stripper escort fund, a budget. Like, okay, I'm gonna spend $500 on pussy this month. No, I'm not making this shit up. This is how, this is how this is. Like, I'm not literally making this up. They got a pussy fund, a pussy budget item, and it's, whatever, $500, $1,500, and they go into that to, either get an escort, or they go to a strip club. Because see, the thing about it is, like, the strip club is really a brothel. I don't really like strip clubs, but I thought about it, I'm like, damn, the strip club is just a brothel. You can definitely go to a strip club, and it's like kind of a secret thing, but it's not secret. Like, they made a song, you know, no sex in the champagne room. Well, I knew that song came out like what, like mid early 2000s. Like, man, shoot, I before that song, I definitely knew that it was sex in the it was definitely sex going on in the champagne room. Okay, and it's like, the tripped out thing about the strip club though, I you know I don't really, I went to probably a strip club twice, and each time it was like somebody else wanted to go in there, it was a friend of mine, and then I just tagged along. That's how I knew it was definitely sex going on in this champagne room. But one thing I do like the idea about, I don't like buying ass or whatever. I I'm just saying, like, one thing I do like about the stripper aspect of it is that you getting a woman that you already know got a banging body. Because one of the things about, the whole escort route, or just let's just say buying a pro, it's a lot of times the pictures, because you're going by pictures, on the internet, right? So those pictures don't match up. A lot of times it's a catfish situation. And then, the chick, she looks like maybe she might be a little thick. And then you show up and she fat. like like when you go to a strip club, you seeing what you gonna partake in. You getting a preview, and that's why they do that. Like, that's why they go do the get on the pole and do the dance, because they trying to show you the goods. That shit go back to, like, man, Africa, go to Arabia. The Arabians, that's what they used to do, the belly dance and all of that. Like, yeah, they had brothels in Arabia and all of that, like Morocco and all. Yeah, like, so the thing is you know, at least you seeing what you seeing the goods. You see she doing a preview, and then she's gonna say, you gonna tell you $100 or 150 or whatever, and you getting what you actually seeing in real time. But, like, yeah, it's some MGTOW, it's some men that, yeah, they got a fund, and it might be whatever, they could be, it could be their sugar daddy, or they they got, they go to the strip club, or they go online and look for escorts, and they just pay, you know they pay out of that money to get a hotel room, or get some rubbers, whatever, and that's they pussy fund for the whatever, for the month. And they might go, get some once a week, or whatever their budget allows them. Like, it's some men, that's how they operate. And and then it's, dudes that do the passport bro thing, or then you got a lot of MGTOWs, really, to be honest, low key. It really, why you really don't hear anything about MGTOW anymore. And I've said this, and this is for a lot of different groups. Literally, what happened, and this is old news. All of the really acronym groups, MGTOW, ITMOR, SYSBM, PUAs, everybody just basically converted into passport bros. Literally. Like, that's why you really don't hear anybody talking about, ain't no new videos on SYSBM. Ain't nobody really talking about no MGTOW, really. Like, I'm probably the only wacko that's talking about MGTOW. But, the way I'm talking about it is very much different than what you would particularly hear from a MGTOW video, from someone that's actually a card carrying MGTOW. But the thing is this: All of those groups literally are they're just passport bros. Literally. Cause it's like once people figured out, they tried everything that they possibly could do in this country. And they did, exhausted of possibilities that they tried and patience and it just they just basically was like, you know what? Fuck this shit, I'm out. And they been did this. This is going on. This thing is kind of, it definitely, it definitely went full volume a few years ago, but this has been going on for decades. The thing is that it's just progressed, and yeah, like nobody doing no videos and shit on no fucking it more, and I don't see no new videos or anything like that. People talking about, MGTOW, Itmore, SYSBM, because people got older and they either, basically found someone the best way they can in this country, or they fucking passport bros. That's a fact. And it's like the thing is that it's it's a thing where it's the environment might be fucked up here. It's so fucked up in America that the environment that they call in America, they literally call America the Matrix. They call America the fucking Matrix. And it's like, okay, you get out of the Matrix, you get out of this environment, you go somewhere else, and then, all of a sudden, it's better than 1990. you know, what I'm saying? You get on a plane and somewhere is like, it might even not even be 1990. It might, I mean, whatever. Like, it's easier. It's, the environment is a lot different. It's a lot better in a good way. Like, and then you realize, okay, I just need to take my economy and then go into a new environment. The women started to fucking freak out. The reason why all of this, really, to be honest, to be fucking really honest, most of why this like whole relationship thing is crashing down is because a lot of men have figured out that they can just basically fly out of the country and they can get whatever they want. I mean, you gotta understand, it might be a small amount of men that have done that, but you gotta think about all of the other men that are seeing they're seeing these men going on these trips and they seeing the women that they dealing with. They might themselves might not be, passport bros, or might be, traveling, or might not even have a passport, but their eyes have seen the coming of the glory of the Lord. They've already seen it. And then once you've seen it, it's like, you know, you be it. Like, I mean, I mean, I'm just saying, like, they might, they understand, okay, if you know shit comes to the fan, like, I can just get out of here and I could go to another country and boom, I'm cool. And it's like, yeah, a lot of dudes, once they figured that out, it's no, the whole thing is like, basically, it's no use of talking about anything relationship wise anymore, or even, having any group or whatever, anything, because it's like you just get out of the environment, just get out of the matrix, problem solved. And that's what me had figured out. And it was like, well, it's, ain't no fucking worrying about no SYSBM talk. You got you a Philippine wife, or a wife from Thailand, and you got two children. You ain't no reason to talk about no MGTOW, no SYSBM, no IPMOR, none of that shit. because you got a different life somewhere else in a different environment, or maybe you have a woman from a different environment. It's no, you got a family now. You teaching your son, how to, hit a 2 iron. you know, you teaching your daughter, how to, ride a bike or tie her shoes. Like, you got different problems now. You evolved, into something else. You kind of, in a way, you evolved past that, those prior issues, and all it involved was you getting out of the environment. So, I mean, I'm not gonna be here all night. I'm just gonna say in closing, um, it just, a lot of men have, responded to the environment and the women in the environment, and they have no other choice but to default into going different routes. And it's like, yeah, the whole strip club route, or escort route. Like, I mean, you know, I to be honest, the reason why dudes have to do all of that is because prostitution is not legal in this country. Like, I don't know, it's kind of like the whole drugs thing or whatever. Like, I mean, prostitution, they don't really like, some states are more flexible than others with that. They know it goes on, but sometimes they will police it, but it is not legal in this country. And I think that prostitution should be legal in this country. And I thought about it. I'm like, a lot of people don't understand the reason, like, how, okay, they understand the old passage. That was the oldest profession known to man, or it's an old profession or whatever. But you know what, like, one of the reasons that prostitution historically existed, it it was for, because you got to understand, and this is definitely in other countries, it's more relevant in other countries, but it's still relevant in the United States as well. But um, the reason why prostitution existed long ago, and to a certain extent, is still the case, but maybe a little different. Um, Prostitution, men going to prostitutes, the reason why they went to them is because it was primarily the reason. It was basically the poor class. So prostitutes historically, even still to this day, are basically women that were grew up in a financially distressed household, or she herself is financially distressed. So she, basically uses her body, her feminine wiles to make money. All right. So the thing is like, historically, the prostitution was, or the men that got prostitutes, they did the reason why they did that was because they couldn't afford to marry a woman. That is what historically why men have, went to prostitutes, because the men, long time ago, even, to now, um a lot of daughters had dowries, and whatever you had back then, that was all you had. It was no credit. It wasn't no Amex. Oh, let me pull my Amex card out. Wasn't no checking accounts like that. Like, I mean, where you ain't gonna get no loan. You ain't gonna, let me, ain't no Klarna. You couldn't put a wife on Klarna. It was whatever you had, whatever God graced you with on this earth at that time. That's all you had. You were poor, it was all you had, was whatever you had. You're rich, you're rich. Now, a lot of men did not have the means to pay for a dowry to basically have a wife. So whatever shekels or coins they had, they would go to the prostitutes and give them a portion of those, the shekels that they little shekels that they had to temporarily enjoy a woman that that ordinarily would have been their wife if they could afford to have a wife. But this is all that they have, being poor. This is all that they have is these shekels to have a temporary experience like they would if they had a wife for a period of time, and that was it. Like that was for the poor man. Like that was historically why that exists. It was another poor man basically paying a poor woman to have a temporary marriage, or temporary, um, sexual experience because he couldn't afford a wife. Now, what's going on now, and why men are kind of getting, prostitutes or whatever, or women that sell sex, is because it's just it's not necessarily poor men. It's not because men are poor. It's not why, you know, modern times in America, men are going to escorts. I mean, the reason why women are prostitutes is still historically relevant, in the sense of a lot of the women that are escorts. They're escorts because they need money, and a lot of them are poor. That's one of the reasons why I don't like um, dealing with prostitutes and everything, because basically you're dealing with a poor woman. Most women do not want to sell pussy. The women that basically sell pussy, most of them are basically, to a certain degree, they have dealt with some type of poverty situation, or they ran away from home or whatever. Some of them are sex trafficked, but you do have quite a bit of women that the reason why they're escorts or whatever is because they didn't have any money. They came from a family, maybe they mom didn't have much money, they was raised by a single mom or two-parent household, and both of their parents was on drugs or something like that. So they was, out, they she was, basically out there selling her body so she can make some money. And it's like, that's still relevant to why there's escorts and even, to a certain degree, strippers. But that, I will say, the stripper thing is a little different. It's um to a certain degree, it might even just be, women that just want a certain lifestyle, and it is an element of that. Like, maybe to a certain degree, strippers have kind of more of a wild card, because a lot of them are just, they want to kind of be have a life of like a rich woman or whatever, and they strip for that, whereas a prostitute, she's not necessarily, you got different levels. Like, the woman is, selling her, selling half an hour BJs for 50 bucks. I mean, she's trying to get by. She's trying to, get a fix, or to cope with her problems and her pain, and make some extra money to take care of her child or whatever, her children. Or, it's still the same type of element, for the most part, for a lot of those prostitutes or escorts or whatever. Definitely the women that's out street walking, definitely. Um, but the men, the reason why they're going to these prostitutes is not because they're poor. The thing is that these women are, it's kind of like a strike. It's like women kind of, to a certain degree, are kind of on strike. Well, one of the things about people that are in unions, they don't like contractors. People in unions despise contractors because to a certain degree, contractors they're strike breakers, and that is the actually historically in America, that's why there's a thing called contractors. Like right now, I'm a contractor. I don't work directly for the company I work. I'm a contractor. So like basically the reason contractors exist is because unions went on strike. I'm not making this up. You know, um, that's the reason why there's all these staffing companies historically. There's been staffing companies and contractors because they were designed to be strike breakers. So a pro, a stripper, a sugar baby is a strike breaker, to a certain extent. Like, it's weird, it's tripped out, but I mean, it is as such. Like, they like, kind of strike breakers because it's like these women out here playing hard to get. Shit, I can get $100. I can get $50. That's how some men look at it. Like, to a certain extent, like, okay, well, I ain't getting no ass from her. She want to talk me to death and then not give me no ass. This chick giving up ass all the time, and it's just, 150 for an hour. Shit. I mean, I got $500 in my pussy budget for this month. I'm gonna go see her. And it's like, yeah, some guys, man, that they're, I remember when I first came to YouTube. YouTube was, it was a different place, man. You had just different people, but I remember one time you had almost a sector. You had so many different sectors. Like, you had a sector damn near for, it was like the John sector. And it was a dude. It was a dude. I don't know if he's still around. It's a dude called Mr. Research. I kid you not. Like, this dude basically was a self-proclaimed John. He basically was basically a pussy buyer. And he had whole pages where, I mean, basically he he wasn't shy about it. Let's just say he put everything on Front Stage. He talked about it. He talked about, like, the goat. It literally, he had a niche. His whole channel was basically a niche channel about a professional guy that, you know basically buys hookers. He was a cool dude, very cool dude. He even came on my channel a couple times. He was on, he was on my channel. I think I don't know if I would have to find out, like, where it is, but this was like 5 or 6 years ago. But basically that was what his channel was about. Like, he would show different, pictures or whatever, chicks he was dealing with. And it wasn't he ain't make he it was pretty much out on Front Street. It was something he was proud about. And um I mean, he was one of those guys that would, justify, okay, well, you going out and you gotta talk her to death for about 2 days, and then go on the first date, and then you ain't gonna get no ass on the first date. So then you gotta, wait around, talk some more, and then maybe after a few weeks, a month go by, a few months, you might get some, finally get some. And it's like, who wants to go through all of that when Raina, she's selling her pussy for $100 for a quickie, for a 30-minute quickie. Like, it's like, you know, and she's available in the next hour. I mean, it's just, you gotta think about it. Like, that is reality. Like, you can go get some ass right now. Like, it's ass is for sale right now. And the thing is like, it's a lot of dudes that um they going through changes dating and trying to, they're dealing with the ghosting and you know the uh long conversations, and when you just really want some pussy and you don't want to tell a chick because it's gonna drive her away and all of that. And so you going through, talking phase, the first chatting phase online and talking phase, then first date, then talking more phase, and trying to, progressively get to the box basically. And it's like, okay, not saying that, I mean, I favor that, because I mean, you gonna get something from a woman that you have a relationship with, a normal relationship with, than a prostitute could never give you. Okay, I mean, it's like getting a plastic snack box versus, a real actual snack box. With, that's not plastic. Is, a real meal. A home. It's not even a snack box. It's like a home cook, a real good home cooked meal. That you can get seconds and thirds. Like, that's the that's the how better a relationship is. Than getting a little hooker or whatever. What I'm saying. It's not equivalent. But it's like some guys that just, they okay with, okay, I just go, fuck her this month and fuck the other one the next, or whatever, like, or the next one week. And, that's their life is, okay, I just pay to play, and I get what I want. And then I don't have to worry about going through hoops with these chicks playing hard to get. It's just what some guys do. Like, I'm just saying. I mean, this is, they don't want to. Most men don't talk about it. Like, you wouldn't even know. And then some men is married, they do it too, but you wouldn't even know. The dudes, they got a chick that they go see every couple weeks, and the chick charge 150. And then they get the GFE experience. It's like, I mean, it just, dudes don't talk about, you know, they hooker stories. They don't, you wouldn't even know. It's a private matter. Like, most people, they don't talk about it. It's some guys make the women sign NDAs, a lot of celebrities and shit like that. Uh they just, yeah, that's what dudes are doing now. And it's like, okay, it's still men that they can't really afford. You got some women, you got some men to a certain extent, they they're married and they go see prostitutes because they can't afford to have multiple women, so they want the experience of having multiple women. So they'll go and deal with different chicks this selling box or whatever. But I mean, the thing is like, it shouldn't be a situation to where men have to go buy box, like, because women are playing hard to get. Like, that shouldn't be the situation. But that's, in a nutshell, what's going on. And it's like, what do men do? I mean, I myself, I ain't buying no pussy. Like, that's, I just, it doesn't satisfy me. It's a lot of shit I don't like about it. I just, nah, I'll be the person that just, I'll probably, wait it out, and see what I can get somewhere else. If not, if it takes too long, or if it goes, too far, I'll just, what I'm saying, I'll just go somewhere else or whatever. But I mean, I ain't got to that point yet. But I mean, the thing is, I ain't buying no pussy. Fuck that shit. But I think that if that's what, if men do that, I don't fault them. I mean, it's just not what I'm on. But I mean, the thing is like, if anything, you probably want to be. I mean, if anything, I would say probably being a sugar daddy is probably better, because you don't want to deal with a chick that's just going through every single dude. Like, I mean, you just kind of want to lower the, because a sugar baby probably would have the least sexual partners out of all of the, like, if you would just say the three different types of woman, a prostitute, escort, a stripper, and a sugar baby. Would the sugar baby probably would have the least, I don't know, dick to pussy ratios. know, um, the dick to woman ratio, like, as far as the dicks that she's dealing with at the moment. Like, the pro definitely will be, number one as far as like the most. And the stripper would be definitely second. But the sugar baby would probably be the least. So it's like, she need $1,500 a month. I mean, hey, like, that's what you want to do, and you probably have a better experience. You probably have more of a GFE experience with the sugar baby. You pay her apartment $1,500. That's in your budget. You're in accounting at Deloitte and Company, or whatever it's called, or you're accountant at KPMG. You make 120 a year as a senior accountant. I mean, okay, you got 1,500. All right, okay, that's that's what you can afford it. You pay it. Boom. Problem solved. But the thing is, it's like, yeah, like, I don't know, like, I mean, really, to be honest, this is just, women actually playing hard to get is actually making their lives harder, because more men are defaulting to MGTOWs. Like, as far as, like, just look at this like a theory. If if men are defaulting to MGTOW, basically just paying for women to have sex with them, and going monk, or going, being passport bros, you know um like, that's another man. That's a man that's not with a woman. So it's a lot of tax. Like, and this is the thing that a lot of women don't talk about. And if I think that this is a live stream within itself. But a lot of women pay a tax to be single. Like women do. Like, okay, women playing hard to get is a tax. It's like, it really, it's taxing them. It's a tax to that. You can call it the playing hard to get tax. It's really affecting women. It's literally putting women on the brink, and I'll explain why. Okay, so if men going their own way by default because women are playing hard to get, so that is not benefiting women because men are not involved. It's not like women are just killing it by themselves. No, they're struggling. They're crying in cars. They're shouting in cars. Um, then they're unemployed. They gotta live with their parents. They gotta sleep in cars, sleep in RVs, sleep in campers, sleep in tents, sleep outside to survive. Some of them with their children. It's not going well. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, and then here's the thing, right? This cycle, because it's like society, trying to survive, and capitalism is like, trying to survive in the Borg. Like, resistance is futile. Like, you gotta, if you don't have money, and then a lot of times women don't have money because they don't have a two parent, I mean, basically a single household doesn't make as much as a dual household, dual income. That's why, like, most like black couples that are dual income, most of them, like 20% of those couples are um basically 100 grand or more. I think it's like 60%, something like that. I posted on my community tab a while back, but like, yeah, like most of the six-figure households in the black community, quote unquote, is of basically dual income households, couples. So it's like when you by yourself, like struggling. You know what I'm saying? So it's a tax to that. And it's like I'm not saying that you should, you know woman listening to this, just go out and just like just bust your pussy open out in the middle of the street and just yell at men, come take it. Like, I'm not. That's not what I. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, if men are going their own way, it's a tax to that for sure. And that tax, women have to pay that tax. So it's like it's backfiring. So what I'm saying, and this is old. I swear to God, like, I don't know where I heard this. I think I heard it like on a radio or something like that. I don't know where I heard this, but I've said this before. It was a Vogue magazine like article in the 90s, and it was about women playing hard to get. I'm not making this up. The article said that women should not play hard to get, and playing hard to get is for men. It's something that basically benefits men. It doesn't benefit women. And I never forgot that. And I've said that many times on this channel as well. But the thing is like, when they're the backfiring of playing hard to get, like, a lot of women that are single and independent, they face some type of financial calamity, and then now, because they don't have any second income to fall back on. So like look at the second income as like insurance. You lose your job, your husband, you know or whatever, boyfriend, he still has a job. He's still able to, he don't like it, but it's an extra strain on him. But he's already used to paying for bills by himself. So he'll just cover the mortgage, cover this, and cover whatever he can, and he can take care of you. When you by yourself, you're just going to be evicted, or you're going to go through foreclosure because you don't have anybody else as a backup income to support you in case you lose your income. So then, in that scenario, what are you doing? Create more whores. You see how it went back? See how it goes back to like a cycle? Now you're a prostitute. Now you're escorting. Now you're OnlyFans in it and meeting it up, charging, $500 for box on OnlyFans in your DMs and OnlyFans, or 350 super premium package, you know, hopefully not the package, but you got premium, and then you got uh, um you know extra uh premium. 350 for the box for the meetups. And it's like, yeah, it all started, you know being independent, and lost your job, and then it's like the whore. Like, look at it like a it's like the symbol for ecology, or recycling. It's like it's got one direction going to the left. It's like this circular motion, right? And it's like a cycle, right? So, okay, it starts here, and then it's like it starts with, okay, being a feminist, uh non-centering men, and all of that bullshit, and down with the patriarchy, and I'm independent. And yeah, you got your kick-ass job, and like them little white chicks that was singing on that TikTok. You the boss in the mini, like Gen Z boss in the mini, right? And then you lose your job, and then now you're unemployed, and then you get evicted, and then now you're kind of financial destitute situation. Now you got to go be a whore. And it's like it all started with being Gen Z girl boss in the mini, and you playing hard to get to a man. You didn't have a man, you had no backup. It's like playing Call of Duty, and you don't have any backup, fucking a backup weapon, or backup ammo. It's like, who plays a game with no backup? It's like women are so, they always talk about how they so educated and so smart and shit. It's like riddle me this, Batman. Okay, who wants to play, like, okay, when Nintendo basically they came out with the memory cards, and it was a smart thing because us old quacks, we were playing whole video games where you had to press the start button. Motherfuckers was pressing the start button and turning the TV off, because as soon as you reset that game, or if the game skipped or anything like that, or it malfunctioned, you lost everything. It wasn't no going back. They didn't have any like ability to save your where you were in the game. So I mean, like, you got to understand, when the memory cards came out, it was game changing, literally, because you could just save wherever you were in the game. It's like, it's like these women, they playing a game where it's no saves. They can't save. Like, they're like these women are generation Nintendos. you got you got these generation one Nintendos. They out here, they ain't got nothing to save them. And they literally getting caught up in the whore life cycle. Like, losing a job, okay, getting a job, then losing a job, then I have to be a whore. It's like you don't get it. Like, you need someone to, I mean, it's like little girls are taught when they little young, castle, horse or pony, and knight in shining armor, and And it's like, yeah, you need a knight, you need a man to save you. You need a knight. You need a knight to save you. You know, it's like, for all you little rough and tumble feminists, you know, just watch this song. It's by Sade, and it's called Someone Already Broke My Heart. Listen to that song, and you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen to that song. It's by Sade, and it's called Already Broke. Somebody already broke my heart. And you could kind of feel what I'm saying. Like, you could feel what I'm saying in that song. The way Sade, like, sings that song, like, you could feel what she's actually like, almost feeling at the time. Like, it's very soulful. But the whole thing is this, like, you got a lot of, that's a new term, like, yeah, generation one Nintendos with no memory cards. They just out here just all boss girling it up, single, independent it up. It's like, soon as they crash out, there you go. Nobody nobody there to be able to save you. Just Nintendo one crash outs. And it's like generation one Nintendos out here with no memory cards, nothing to save their ass from anything. And it's like, yeah, just they're paying a tax, you know, they're paying the cost. And it's so a lot of them, it converted to whores to survive. It's that bad, you know. And it's like, I mean, I be trying to tell these chicks, man. I be people don't, I know I don't get that many views, but I do know what the fuck I'm talking about, man. I know what I'm talking. I might not be, my delivery is not of a pimp or a Mac or nothing like that, but I definitely know what I'm talking about. And I mean, like, try it out, like, for about 90 days. You stop playing hard to get. You might end up in a year from now, you get whatever you wanted. You might have a baby, a family, happier, what I'm saying, and, and less depressed. It's like, man, I mean, hard. I promise you, like, that was out of that Vogue article. Not making that up. Like, yeah, like, if your game is whack. For women out there listening, your game is whack. If you playing hard to get, you just making it. You driving men away, and you just basically you're you're making more whores. I mean, like, the whore life cycle is just, you just bringing more, you just generating more whoredom, in a nutshell. So damn, this thing is long. This video is just super super long. I'm just rattling on. Wow, almost 3 hours. But yeah, I'm gonna close this out. I've said quite a bit. Notice is a pretty fire video, so I'm definitely gonna keep it up. Let's see what else. Like, share, subscribe. Hit the cash out.